F, H, X, T, 12400, 14700. But what does it all mean? This is just one of the things that can overwhelm you as a beginner in PC building. All these numbers and letters feels like some code that only masters or robots or developers can understand. And this is only for Intel chips. We are not even talking about the AMD chips, but today we will destroy that wall that separates us from the rest. And make sure that by the end of this video, you will understand what all these letters and these numbers mean. This is a typical CPU or chipset name for Intel, and you may look at it as an overview on understanding what the attributes are of this particular CPU. This name contains the CPU's attributes, its performance, its feature sets, and intended use. And it can help us to quickly identify which CPU will be best suited for our needs. The CPU naming for Intel can be broken down into 5 parts. The first part is the brand name. This usually indicates what type of application this CPU or this processor is used for. Some of the known Intel brand names are Intel Core Ultra, Xeon, Celeron, and Pentium. I will not be able to discuss each and every one of these brand names, but for example, the Intel Core Ultra processors are the new Intel chip that uses NPUs or neural processing units, which may also use the Intel Arc GPU for graphics and AI acceleration. The Intel Core Ultra processors are also designed mostly for premium laptops that will usher in the age of AI PC, giving us stunning visual and audio effects while conserving battery power. The next part of the Intel naming for their CPU consists of its brand modifier. This brand modifier, or maybe we can typically know this as the processor family, the brand modifier, which we will typically hear as the processor family, indicates each tier's relative performance. These are the more common names that we usually hear out in the market, like the i3, i5, i7, i9. So these are called the processor family or the brand modifier. And in the gaming PC world, like for example, the i5 is considered used for mid-level gaming performance, the i7 is considered as a high-level gaming performance, and the i9 usually is the top-level gaming performance. Higher tiers of these CPUs may have a higher maximum frequencies, which we may see in terms of gigahertz, for doing single-core tasks. They may also have higher core counts or higher cache, and sometimes even new and expanded feature sets, such as the Intel hyper-threading technology, which allows your CPU to pool the resources in order to improve the performance of single-core tasks. But do take note that there are some changes in this naming convention, especially in the brand modifier for Intel processors. Starting with the Intel Core Ultra processors and the Intel Core Series 1, they already dropped off the I letter in the brand modifier. So instead of Intel Core i9 or Intel Core i7, then you will only see for the Series 1, Intel Core 9 or Intel Core 7. The third part of the processor naming for CPU on Intel chips is actually the generation of the chipset. Typically, this will be the first 1 or 2 numbers you will find at the very end of the naming convention for Intel chipsets. But as of now, since we are already in the 14th generation, that's the latest one that we have right now, we will not be able to see those namings that are just 1 digit of the modifier. As of recording this video, the latest Intel Core that is already released is on the 14th generation. So you will typically see the naming of the generation starting with 14. Although generations 13 and 12 are still good in today's market for PC building. And by the end of this year, most likely the scheduled 15th generation of the Intel chipsets will be released. Transitioning from older generation to newer generation of Intel chipsets usually comes with different and new features. And additionally, a generational change can bring in updated compatibility with the latest technologies. Next up, after the generation number, is our processor number, or typically known as the SKU number. The purpose of this number is to differentiate different features within the same family and the same generation. This may include base clock speeds, max frequencies, cache size, core or thread counts, memory support, and maybe even more. Do take note that this processor number do not cross over to different family tiers. For example, you will not be able to find a 14900 on an i5 series, and at the same time, you will not be able to see a 14600 or a 14500 on an i9 series. Although the family and generation of a CPU name already indicates most of its components or most of its features, like its level of performance, its capabilities, it is further detailed down by the series suffix, which is usually a letter or a combination of letters that we can find at the end of that Intel CPU name. This will signify the type of systems that the processor is tooled for. A suffix, or the lack thereof, points out whether the CPU or the processor is designed for desktops, laptops, or mobile devices. CPU names that lack suffix usually is categorized under the same category as the ones under category S, or the suffix S, which means that this belongs to the S series. These processors are made for desktops and offer a range of options for various budgets and needs. CPUs with the suffix of H belongs to the H series, which is a series of powerful mobile processors for gaming laptops, while a suffix of K denotes an unlocked desktop processor that allows overclocking, while a CPU with an H and a K, or H plus K at the end of the CPU name, denotes that it's an unlocked processor for laptops that can allow overclocking, while a suffix of F would indicate that you will need a dedicated graphics card. And lastly, with a G suffix, it denotes that the CPU is with an additional built-in integrated graphics. I know that is a lot of letters to digest in, but let me break it down to you so it will be more simple for you depending on the type of hardware that you will be using. So for desktop gaming PCs, which what we are doing in this channel means that we are building our own PCs, we will need to focus on the CPU names that are distinct for desktop. And one thing to take note of is that you should not see a suffix of H for desktop CPUs. Remember, the H suffix denotes that the processor is for mobile gaming and is used for gaming laptops. So the suffixes, or the suffixes? Anyway, the letters that we need to take note of for desktop PCs are K, which denotes high-performance CPUs, which allows for overclocking, F, which means that it needs a designated graphics card, an S, which is a special edition. By the way, I haven't seen a 14th generation of Intel with an S designation. A T, which is power efficient or power optimized, and an X or an XE, which are extreme editions or which is usually the very top end of the processors. But do take note that you will see combinations of this, like for example, you have a K plus an F because it's a high end and allows for overclocking, but it also needs a designated graphics card. So they combine this K and F designation or this suffix at the end of the processor names. Again, remember that you will not see an H designation or an H suffix on any of the desktop CPU names. And just for information and a general rule of thumb, these are some of the typical CPU names for mobile and gaming laptops. So there you have it. That's the basic explanation of the naming convention used by Intel for their CPU names, and we have broken it down to 5 different parts. The first part is the brand name. The second one is the brand modifier, which is what we typically see as i5, i7, i9. Then we have the generation number, either 13th gen, 14th gen, or even older 12th gen. Afterwards is the processor number or the SKU number. And lastly is the suffix, which is a letter or a combination of letters depending on the features of each CPU. Understanding how the name works for the Intel CPU processors actually gives us an overview on its features and its capabilities, which is something that will help us in choosing the most compatible CPU for our needs, be it for gaming or be it for productivity, especially if we are beginners. But it doesn't stop there. We still have other vital components for our PC that we need to understand. And I am doing this video series in order to discuss with you guys all the major components that we need to understand in PC building. especially for you guys who are just starting out in your journey in PC building. So why don't you click that subscribe button so you will be in the know when the next of this series is out. Thank you so much guys for watching and see you in the next one.